right? We started talking about you go to college, you get a degree, you get a job, get married, you get a house, you have kids. Like it became one of those tentpole things.
Right.
And so now when you take it out, it's almost like what should people be pursuing, right? If you got married, you got a good job, you're working, you're with your partner, it's almost like people think they have to pursue. It's almost like the assumption that you have to have kids. It's the same assumption of, oh, well, we have to buy a house.
Yeah.
So what should people pursue instead financially when it comes to financial security?
The goal is what I'll call wealth. The goal isn't to be rich. Rich is the things you see. Wealth is what you don't see. And your pursuit should be wealth or economic security. And this is what wealth is. Wealth is having passive income that's greater than your burn. Two examples. I have a buddy who runs M&A for a bulge bracket investment bank, makes between $3 and $10 million a year, depending upon the market. Because it's all current income, he pays 50% taxes between his ex-wife, his home in the Hamptons, and his master of the universe lifestyle that he feels he deserves. He hasn't saved a lot of money, and he spends most of it. And I know that firsthand, he has a lot of sleepless nights wondering what happens if the music stops. He is not wealthy. My father, who is 94, between his pension from the Royal Navy, Social Security, and he owns 6 washer-dryer machines in trailer parks where he goes and collects the money with his walker. He makes $52,000 a year. He spends $48,000. So he is saving money despite the fact that he's not working. So his passive income is greater than his burn. He is wealthy. So you want to put yourself on a track to being wealthy. You want to say, realistically, I can control how much I spend. I've been coaching this couple living in San Jose, and they're in their late 50s. I talk a lot about young people, and they say, Scott, we're in our late 50s. What do we do? How much money do you have? What's your house worth? Da-da-da. And by the time they're 65, they're not going to have enough passive income to pay for their lifestyle. I said, well, let's lean into our strengths here. Why are you in San Jose? And they said, well, we've always lived here. I'm like, well, okay, your kids are gone. And you just mentioned that you go to Costa Rica twice a year. Why wouldn't you try and cut your burn 40% and move to Costa Rica and take that economic pressure away and sell your house here? I think your kids would love to come visit you in Costa Rica. So the question is, put yourself on a path using basic math and what you really think you're going to need in terms of passive income, such that at some point, ideally it's by the time you're 40, it's usually not, but it needs to be by the time you're 65 or 70, because that release of economic anxiety frees you up to focus on what is really important, and that is deep and meaningful relationships. So the reason why I am so much happier over the last 10 years than I was kind of the first 45 years of my life is that economic stress was always there for me. I was raised by a single immigrant mother who lived and died a secretary. I felt like there was a ghost following us around telling us we weren't worthy because we didn't have money. Between college, student loans, the dot bomb crash, and the great financial recession, I just never had enough money to have passive income such that I was done. Most people, and a lot of people never get there. I got lucky. I sold my last company about 10 years ago for a lot of money. Now, unless I really screw up again, which I've done a couple times, I can focus on my relationships. The resting blood pressure of a child in a low-income home is higher than the resting systolic blood pressure of a kid in a middle or upper-income home. I think the majority of divorces are not a function of infidelity or a lack of shared values. It's those things, one or more of those things might happen, and then the incendiary on it is financial stress. 2/3 plus of divorce filings are from women. And we don't like to say this because we like to assume all men are predators and all women are virtuous. But when a man is under financial stress, the reality is he becomes less attractive as a mate. And that can lead to real stress in the relationship. So what you want to pursue, if you're not pursuing a home, you want to put yourself on a path. You want to get alignment with a partner. You want to track your spending and put yourself on a path to some level of economic security, of wealth, by, say, the time you're 65. And if you're young and you're killing it, instead of buying a bigger flat screen or a bigger TV or maybe a bigger house, well, what if I started saving 10, 15, 20, 30% of my salary and I got wealth by the time I'm 40 or 45? Because to be in America, young and healthy and have passive income that's greater than your burn, you're just going to have a wonderful life. So it's not acquiring anything. It's getting to a point of economic security or wealth. And that's a function of two things. How much money you make such that you can save. Key to wealth is not how much you make, it's how much you save. And also the thing you can control is your burn. I have a friend who ran a hedge fund. It closed down. He makes good money, but not great money. Living in Tribeca with 3 kids, needed $1 million a year to live that life. Moved to Portugal, lives an amazing life with a beautiful home, great food, childcare, great education on $400,000 a year. I mean, these are problems of privilege, but that has taken the world of stress off his shoulders. He now needs to make a very good living, not an outrageous living. So, but surround yourself with smart people who can help you make these decisions. But wealth is passive income that's greater than your burn.
I grew up in a family where we didn't have the healthiest relationship with money because we never had enough. Or we always had just enough and that was good enough. And that was always like, you're just looking at your bank balance sitting at 0 all the time. Like, how do we rewire our relationship with money? Because most of us have a stressful relationship with money.
Well, when you think about how they help people who are depressed, it's a combination of talk therapy and, if needed, some sort of pharmaceutical intervention. I think mental illness or mental unwellness around money, I think we absolutely need to, one, have more financial literacy. I think we should have a class called Adulting in your senior year of high school that says, my kid can do derivatives, but I just figured out he doesn't understand the interest rate on his credit card. So young people need a certain level of financial literacy. Also, I encourage them to talk about money with their friends. It's especially hard for men. Women are disproportionately evaluated based on their aesthetics. Men are disproportionately evaluated based on their economic vitality. If you want to be good at money, put down the facade and start talking to people about their investments, how much money they make, what they do with their money, how they save money, what they do to try and limit their spending. I talk about stoicism. See if you can find a practice where you get reward or a dopa hit from exercise or relationship.
So I'd meet a lot of young people who sadly have spent so much money on their degree, are really smart academically, but then that skill doesn't translate into knowing how to make their company more money, knowing how to lead people really well, knowing how to build functions, systems, processes. And therefore it's like, well, wait a minute, I just studied all these years, but it doesn't translate.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I mean, for a long time, we employed people from the top universities and financial firms. We would go out and we would hand select them because that would be an indicator of their grit, perseverance, and potentially their intellect, their IQ. Now, by and large, you're starting to see a lot of the top institutions bypass that. Google doesn't mandate that you have a college degree if you're going into an engineering degree, actually. And I think that should be really liberating for us. It's basically breaking down this barrier that's a 6-figure barrier that allowed for the few, the elites, to stair step over everybody else. And now it's actually saying, how bad you want it? And don't tell me what you learned. Show me what you can do, or even better, show me what you did. And so I think the resume of the future is actually, if somebody came to you, Jay, and they were like, I just graduated from Wharton. I am very smart. I also did my undergraduate degree at Harvard. I now want to come work for you. You'd be like, what do you know how to do? Do you know how to market? Do you know how to grow a beverage company? Do you know how to increase our investment return? Oh, you kind of have looked about how to do that in a case study? That's probably less interesting to you than somebody that goes, you know what? I was part of the beverage team at Erewhon and Whole Foods, and I figured out sort of across the country how they buy different pieces of inventory.
Yeah, you got my attention already.
Right, exactly. And maybe because I want to help you grow this individual business, which I know you care about because I see it on your socials, I put together this little spreadsheet for you. Here's the things they care about. Could I come work for you for free for 3 or 6 months? And if that works out, could we do something better and bigger? The problem that people usually have on the internet when I throw out the word work for free is young people are like, remember that part where you told us that we were broke and we don't have any money? So I'm not trying to dismiss that at all, but I do think we have to be honest about the fact that when we're young, you're going to have to work harder than you think, longer than you think, doing stuff you don't like with people you probably don't like until eventually you get the right to do something really interesting.
Me and you went back to a place in our life where we really didn't have money.
Yes.
And you think about someone who's in that position, who's listening to us right now, and in their head, they're thinking, but how do I become abundant when I don't have. Well, like my natural thing is like, I'm just struggling to pay my next bill. And me and you have both been in those situations. I remember when I was growing up, I grew up in a house where we had just enough. Like that was the language my parents used.
Yes.
We have just enough. And my parents would often argue about money. I remember I wasn't allowed to buy cool shoes and stuff. I'd have like the knockoff cheapest brand from whatever, which was, I actually didn't have an issue with that. I didn't have an issue with any of it because we had food and that was my normality. But it's really interesting because the amount of times growing up, I started working when I was 14. And I think that gave me a really interesting sense of how hard it was to make money. Because I started working at 14, I used to get paid £2 per street that I delivered newspapers on.
Wow.
So imagine there's 100 houses. It's going to take me like...
Not per house.
No.
Per street.
Per street.
Oh my gosh.
So I did 5 streets. And so I'd get £10 at the end of the week if I did 5 streets. And each street would take me at least an hour, maybe, I don't know, something like that. And so I'd walk around, I'd pull this thing and I'd deliver it. And I got an understanding of how hard it was to make money. But then that became a story for me, going to your point.
Making money hard.
Making money is hard. And that there's only a certain amount of money you're allowed to make at this level. Like you're a 14-year-old.
Yes.
Then I worked in retail. I stacked shelves at a grocery store. I worked at a store called Morrison's, which is like working at Walmart. And there I remember I got paid like £5 an hour. And then you get like time and a half if you work the weekends and the evenings. All of this to say that I probably spent my whole life only seeing zero in my bank account because everything that would come in would pay for my phone bill, my car insurance that I paid for, whatever it was that I was taking care of. So I wasn't relying on my parents, apart from I lived in their home, obviously. But I always felt like money came in, money went out. And my story around money was people who have money are doing something bad. So I lived in a home, whenever we went to a friend's home, and they had a nice home, my family would always say, oh yeah, but they do dodgy stuff to make money.
Yeah.
All the language around money was people with money are doing bad stuff. So in my head, it was like, oh, if you have money, then you must be doing shady stuff because we don't have money and we're not doing any shady stuff.
You must be hurting people to make money.
Correct. In some way, exploiting.
Taking advantage of.
Yeah, taking advantage, whatever. So everything you're saying is so true because then when I got to a point in my life where I was just trying to do good and I had something like 150, 200 million views on content.
And you had no money.
I was 4 months away from being broke.
I met you at this time.
And I met you around this time.
I met you this time, yes.
And it was really interesting to me because that was the time that I was actually doing this work, which is why this book's so powerful because I realized that I couldn't, even with 150, 200 million views, it wasn't that made money because my story and my personality style was anxious. I felt like it was wrong to make money. Like that's actually what it was. I felt like making money was bad. And so until I got to that.
Did you believe you were worthy of making more money?
I believed I was worthy, but I believed that you had to be bad to make money.
Wow. So you didn't want to be bad. You didn't want to have a lot of money and associate, I have a lot of money and I'm bad.
Correct.
I'm bad and wrong and I'm hurting others in order to help myself.
Correct. Because good people are poor.
Wow.
Right? Like to be a good person of good character means to not have money.
Wow. And that was based on a belief system that you developed
over time that I didn't even know. Like if you would have told me about this 8 years ago, I would have been like, I don't know, which is why I think these reflections are so important. So when you're in that place, taking your story as well, taking my story, how do we start to rewrite that story now that we're aware?
Well, it's so powerful that you said that. And I remember this. Anyways, how do we rewire our brain around money to create more abundance?
When you have nothing.
When you have lack. How do we rewire our brain to create abundance when you have nothing and you don't know how to earn more money? The first thing I think you need to be aware of is that your beliefs dictate your behaviors. So if you believe that money is bad, or people who make a lot of money are bad and take advantage of others, and therefore me having lack right now means I'm a good person and I don't want to become a bad person, then that belief is going to dictate your behaviors and you're going to stay in lack. You're going to stay in scarcity and you're going to see opportunities that only give you just enough, as opposed to opportunities that could create incredible wealth for yourself financially, but also an emotional wealth that you've never had before. So that's one of the things you want to understand is first that your beliefs dictate your behaviors.
That's a big one, by the way. That's huge.
Yeah.
Like that, I just want to point that out for people. Like that's so huge.
Because your belief,
it's huge.
Your belief got you to a place of, I am impacting hundreds of millions of people from these videos that I created with my talents. But I don't know how to make money with them. And I don't know if I actually should, because then I could be bad and wrong, or people could perceive me as I did something bad to make this money.
Correct.
And I'm a spiritual person. I'm a monk. I've done all these things. I don't want to have that life.
Yeah.
But I want to make an impact and I don't want to be poor.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people are struggling with that mindset.
What are the other ones you hear? What are the other, focusing on that belief spirit, what are you hearing from people about their belief? That's my belief.
Yep.
And that's very much my history and story, as you said. What other stuff do you hear from people?
The biggest shift that will create abundance in your life is a mindset habit in unlocking wealth for yourself. And one of the big lies, or one of the big blocks that holds people back from financial opportunity, is that I cannot be generous with my time, my wisdom, my knowledge, or my secrets to others, because if I am, they will take it and run with it, and I will be left with nothing. So therefore, I'm going to hoard my energy, I'm going to hoard my time, my knowledge, and only keep it to me so that others don't have good ideas or have my help. And from all the different billionaires and millionaires and financial leaders in the world that I've interviewed, I know you've interviewed a lot of them, there is a question I would always ask individuals who've made incredible amounts of money, and that keeps helping them create more wealth year after year. And they all say the same thing. Those who have had a sustainably good heart in the process, is that you have to have a generous mindset. So the mindset habit is the first thing that you have to think about when creating abundance with your money, but also feeling abundant internally. And it's coming with generosity. So if you feel like you're stuck right now, if you feel like you have nothing, this was what you were at 8 years ago when I met you. This was where I was at 15 years ago when I was on my sister's couch. I had no money. I was in student loan debt. I was sleeping on her couch. I didn't think I had any skills. I didn't have a college degree yet. I was like, how am I going to make money if I don't know how to make money and I don't have any talent or skill and I'm in debt? It didn't understand it. It felt impossible. And the thing that I shifted when I started meeting money mentors is I needed to learn the first habit, which is the mindset habit, which is a habit of generosity and gratitude.
So what did that look like then? What was the practical step?
What it looks like was, how do I meet money people who have money, people who have success, people who can teach me knowledge? I needed to come with a sense of energy, of curiosity, of possibilities, and of joy. I literally wrote a list down of all these different things that I thought were my talents. I go, how can I make money? I don't have any skills. I played football and now I'm injured. What can I do for people? But I was like, well, I'm really curious. Maybe I can just ask people questions. And never did I think in a million years that I could have a 12-year-old podcast just asking questions and make millions of dollars a year. I never thought that was possible. I was in my early 20s and I was like, you know what? I've got a lot of energy. I've got a lot of passion. So let me bring passion and energy to other people and excitement. And that energy was infectious. And there's a currency that's tied to that energy of passion, joy, excitement, curiosity. That currency may not look like money, but for those who are older, who have no more passion, they're burnt out, they're exhausted, it is the highest form of currency. They want that. They crave that energy. They've burnt themselves out for decades. They want to feel young again. They want to feel curious again. They want to feel excited again. And when you come to someone with that energy, you are bringing a different mindset. So the mindset of curiosity, joy, passion, presence, like just connecting with someone and asking them a question is such a valuable currency. So we have to look into these untapped skills, talents, currencies inside of us that are hidden to others, but inside of us, they can create magic.
Yeah.
That's one of them. Another one is just being generous with your time, with your resources, with your ideas, and helping others succeed.